prove you're the best, you have to beat the best. That's true in every sport, especially so in motorsports, where you compete with every team at once. But what happens when the stakes are set nationwide with a season finale in Sin City, broadcasted to thousands of people from Las Vegas? You get the GRIDLIFE SimCity Challenge presented by Valvoline, a 4-round iRacing series where 16 of the fastest iRacers will qualify for a finale round against 8 of the fastest drivers at GRIDLIFE GameNight at the Luxor Hotel on November 4th. Our first round takes us far away from neon lights and the Strip to a small town in Connecticut with a track called Lime Rock Park. This is GRIDLIFE iRacers SimCity Challenge presented by Valvoline. Round 1 with global Mazda MX5s. Hi everybody, my name's Kyle Heyer, joined by Tom O'Gorman for the first of 4 rounds, first of 3 prior to our finale. Tom, welcome back to iRacing.
It is so cool to be back. Holy cow, we're starting off pretty early this year. And Kyle, you look great in a bowler hat.
Thanks. I don't know what that is.
it's the exact hat that goes with this music. That's what it is. But you look great. I'm just kidding. No, we're having a blast kicking off the GRIDLIFE iRacers season a little early this season. It's not even the off season per se. It's only October 3rd or 4th, whatever day it is, 5th. But it's for a very good reason, because we're going to go sim racing in real life at game night out in Vegas during SEMA.
Absolutely. So how this works is we're going to qualify 16 of our fastest GRIDLIFE iRacer drivers over the course of the next 3 weeks. The top 16 in points will then get to compete virtually when we head to Las Vegas, Nevada on November 4th to the Luxor Hotel for GRIDLIFE's Game Night presented by Valvoline. We're going to qualify 8 drivers at SEMA, the fastest of which are going to compete in our 24-driver finale with the GLTC race format to determine a champion of the SimCity Challenge presented by Valvoline. Out of the racetrack right now, qualifying for our racing this evening. How does this work, Tom? The same old way we've always done it with heat racing. We have a 40-driver feature coming up at the end of all this, but first we have to set our 40-driver grid. We had almost 60 join us for qualifying, so we're going to have 2 heats where the top 15 from each will move on, and we'll have a 10-driver advancement in the consolation race, and then we'll have our 40-driver feature for 20 minutes. So we'll explain that as it goes on a little bit later tonight. But down to the racetrack for qualifying, we've got a whole bunch of drivers setting times now, all on their own, but they're going to have to race against each other here in just a couple minutes.
Yeah, they get 2 laps to themselves, essentially. No other cars visible on the track. You get to just go out there and turn up the wick a little bit. And these Global MX5 Cup cars take about 2 laps to actually get to their potential as far as grip and heat goes. So this is going to be kind of challenging conditions. In practice, Paul Darling, a familiar name, was fastest. Ken House-Steele, second quick. Wyatt Gooden, a new name for us here at the GRIDLIFE iRacers, was 3rd quickest. But, I mean, if you just scan down the top 20, it's a who's who of GRIDLIFE iRacers, and it's cool to be back. It's cool to see these names again circulating the track. Andrew Pilata currently qualified on pole after one of those 2 flying laps. He was 6th in practice, so he's going to be a factor.
Other drivers that you might recognize, of course, DJ Alessandrini, he's always a tough one to beat. I'm sure he'll be a factor by the end of all this. Another driver that you might recognize from competition, not only here in iRacing, but also in the GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, is Brian Heitkotter. Good to see him back here. The 2011 GT Academy winner. So he's certainly very, very talented. You mentioned Paul Darling, Marc-Antoine Blaise is back, Kyle Herbst, Kevin Zhu, who now has a job at iRacing, so congratulations to Kevin. Just started a few weeks ago. Ryan Kristoff, another GRIDLIFE Touring Cup competitor with a familiar livery. So this is the who's who, as you mentioned, Tom. But we're going to get into some of our keys to the race. But one of them is there's a lot of new drivers here tonight, a lot of new people just getting into the GRIDLIFE community. And before I get too much further, if you'd like to be a part of this series, you can head over to the GRIDLIFE Facebook. You can find where the Discord is and join us for future rounds here. We actually have a drop race of the first 3 rounds, so you can actually miss this round entirely and still have a fair and equal shot at making it to the finale at the end of the season. So that's really exciting for everybody. But our season takes us from Lime Rock tonight with the MX5s to Mosport next week with GT4 cars, and then to Austria's Red Bull Ring with the new Porsche 992 Cup car, which will also be the car for the season finale, which will be hosted in Las Vegas, but at Road Atlanta here in iRacing. So a lot of really exciting things coming up. Qualifying is almost complete. This basically sets our heats. Odd drivers in Heat 1, even drivers in Heat 2, and then the top 15 from each of those heats move forward into the final.
Yeah, and to reiterate what's going to unfold here tonight, we are racing Global MX5 Cup cars through a series of heat races into a feature race. As Kyle just mentioned, the odd-numbered drivers and even-numbered drivers from this qualifying session will go into separate heats. We'll watch those guys race for about 10 minutes each. Then there will be a last chance qualifier race where the last 10 drivers will get into that feature race. Then we'll see a 40 driver feature race. So there's going to be a total of 4 races unfolding here. The first of which is coming up. They're already gridding, in fact, and on pole for that one is going to be Andrew Pilata, Brian Heitkotter on the outside of that front row as our first and third place qualifiers here in the first round.
As I look from up above here quickly, let's have a look at our weather for tonight's events. How about 74 degrees in the air, 80 degrees on the racetrack, just a little bit of wind out of the west. So it is a beautiful day for racing here in the simulator. That is something that or the reason why we race here in iRacing during the winter, because Road America and Mid-Ohio are covered in snow for most of us, unfortunately. So we get to enjoy a little bit of sim racing in the off-season. It's not quite, the off-season isn't quite here yet, but we're already starting a little early here. So going down the rest of the order, you mentioned the drivers on the front row, Marc-Antoine Blaise and Kyle Herbst in that second row, Kevin Zhu, Darian Taggart, Bob Casera, Ryan Christoph. Looking down some other drivers we've seen, Val DiPietro, Evan Schickel. How about Finian DeCuna, by the way? Familiar face for me, my college roommate, so glad to see him here. We are going to have a pace lap. We're going to have a rolling start for this one here, Tom. These cars got a new sequential gearbox recently in an update. First gear goes to 63 miles an hour, so we're going to have a rolling start. How about our keys of the race, Tom?
Yeah, so the first one is all in on qualifying. Put all your chips down there. We've already had it unfold, but that's really going to determine how well you can do for the night, because racing here is incredibly hard. It's also very high risk because of how tight things can get, how many cars there are, which brings us to our second point.
Survive the night. You got to make it through the heats to make it to the end. You got to make it to the end to score points. So it's a multifaceted challenge this evening. It began with qualifying, but now this is also qualifying technically. You have to make it through to have a chance in the final.
Yeah, consistency is key. And then finally, our fresh faces, not only with drivers, but in the fact that, you know, in 2020, as much as we don't love to talk about it, we did a lot of sim racing. We did a lot of like consistent throughout the summer, throughout the winter. Everybody was driving a lot. This year's been a little more normal, and there hasn't been a lot of sim racing happening recently. There's also been some updates to the game, some updates to the car. In general, a lot of people are just kind of plunging their toes back into the shallow end of this sim racing stuff. And while we have 60 drivers here tonight, it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for people just to get back up to pace. So we have some new drivers here, of course, but we also have quote unquote old drivers. We have familiar drivers, there's a better way to say it, who are in a unique learning curve.
Some facts about Lime Rock Park that were scrolling along the bottom of your screen. This track constructed back in 1956. One of the classic American road courses, and exciting things moving forward in our real season that I know there's talks right now, and we're moving forward into the season announcement in the coming weeks and months. So be sure to pay attention to where Grid Life is heading in the real world for 2022. On to the back straightaway now for the pace lap. When we get the green flag, it will be a 10-minute race, approximately 11 laps, and the top 15 drivers will move on. So on the ticker on the left-hand side of the screen, everybody above that yellow line moves on. Everyone below it will not move on to the feature. They'll have to fight it out for 10 spots in the last chance qualifier. So critically here at Lime Rock Park, the uphill, Tom, there's a couple different layouts to Lime Rock, but we're going to do the classic one. You come over the top of this hill and you're going to catch some air.
Yeah, and I mentioned it in qualifying. These cars take about 2 laps to get up to temperature now with the most recent updates. They're not fastest right out of the pit lane anymore, so that uphill is specifically a place that catches drivers out now as the tires are cold, in the same way that they would be in real life, but it makes these Miatas feel like they have a couple extra 100 horsepower there on the first lap.
So time to go racing for our first heat. Again, the 15 top drivers in this heat will move on automatically to the feature. Andrew Pilata, Brian Heitkotter on that front row. The Grid Life Sim City Challenge presented by Valvoline is green, and we're racing from Lime Rock Park. The field storms out at turn 1. Pilata with a very solid start. He's going to be the leader as we get to the first corner. So far, so good as we make it through the first turn. Everyone keeping it on course and in the right direction, Tom.
Yeah, very tame, and Brian Heitkotter slices up underneath the inside of Marc-Antoine Blaise there in the left-hander that they literally just called the left-hander here at Lime Rock to take over second place there in the 05. The 64 Marc-Antoine Blaise slots in behind, and they're single file all the way back through the top 10. It looks like even in the top 15 before a couple of cars are side by side down the Holman straight, or no-name straight.
Pilata up and over the top of the crest. Heitkotter, Blaise, Herbst, Zhu, the rest of the top 5 as we sweep over the hill. And critically, the thing about Lime Rock Park that will sometimes catch the new drivers out is that there's really one good passing opportunity. There's 7 corners here, Tom, but 6 of them are just a setup process. There's one driver, I think that was Zoo, goes way wide at corner exit.
I think it was also Kyle Herbst and Darian Taggart going along the outside there. Now they're going to go side by side, and this is that great passing zone that you talked about. We're side by side for the lead for a moment, but then things kind of single file back out as the 19 comes back in line.
Kyle Herbst in the green car, big slide at corner exit. Looks right on board with Darian Taggart as he watched the battle for the front 5 positions right off of his nose. Taggart started this in 6th. That's where he remains. But all about carrying momentum in these cars. You don't want to really use the brakes a whole lot, especially after you get out of turn 1.
And as silly as it sounds, this is the kind of place that the faster you go, the faster it comes at you. And it's, you know, obviously to say that, but at a place like Road America, maybe the faster you go, you still get a huge long straightaway to think about what's coming up next. Here at Lime Rock, you get a couple hundred feet, maybe. So it really starts to come at you very, very quickly, especially in real life. But even here in the sim, you don't get a lot of time to think about what's happening, and then you make those small little mistakes, like we saw the 38 of Kevin Zhu drops a tire coming off of that downhill corner, and then all of a sudden Kyle Herbst has a charge up the inside for 4th.
And here comes the 189 on the brakes a little bit later. 38 runs wide, and here comes Taggart trying to take advantage of the 38 out of line. He will go and grab one as well. So 2 spots. Kevin Zhu will drop, but he's going to fight him off in turn 3 in the left-hander.
Taggart smart to duck underneath and slot back in line for 6th. He might get another shot at Kevin Zhu here in a minute. Ryan Kristoff is in the background lurking, as is Bob Casera. This battle for 5th is getting very intense, and it's important to remember every single position in this race becomes 2 on the feature race grid because we insert all those odd drivers as well. So, even drivers as well. So it's important to pick up every spot you can get.
So Ryan Kristoff in the number 28 car. This livery resembles his real-life Honda CRX that he runs in GLTC. We got a trouble in the background. That's Matt Murphy in the number 136. Let's see how he found himself in that position here, Tom, and if you can help me find out how this happened. And it's actually easy to, well, hold on one moment. It's actually easy to have that go a little bit wrong.
Yeah, it looks like he just got into the compression of the uphill and went around all by himself. Got a little bit of an aggressive turn into way too much curb, catches grass and goes around.
Yeah, just too much curbing there, and he grinds the tires through the grass. That's not a right way to fall to the back, but that's what happened for him. Back out front, Pilata leads the way, and Heitkotter in 2nd. This is a really strong heat, a lot of really talented drivers. I think once you mix everybody together in that feature, I think we'll see some more action towards the front, but Pilata has a pretty good grip of it right now.
The winner of this race goes to pole for the feature race, and again, the top 15 from this race automatically get into the feature. So it's important to do well. That 15th position currently is Nathan Adler, and it looks like he might have a little bit of a buffer to Val DiPietro there in 15th, so he's feeling probably as comfortable as you're going to get here at Lime Rock.
The driver's popping out of line behind Ryan Kristoff. That's Bob Casera in the 45 going defensive. Garcia in the number 22. That's the orange and white car who is outside on the grinders into turn number 1. That's dicey side by side. We're right on board with Lucas Webster and watch it.
It's one of the coolest things about Lime Rock is, ooh, they touch, and Garcia's going to go for a bit of a ride. The 22 keeps it pointed the right way, but drops about 5 positions and is actually going to slot in right about that battle for 15th, that bump spot. But the cool part about Lime Rock is it's fairly wide. All the corners are relatively on camber, and you can actually run the wide line, the outside, as much as you can run the inside.
Yeah, the other thing is that these cars are so forgiving that we saw that contact there with Garcia, but he was able to gather it back up, and that's because this car is relatively low power and has kind of a lot of grip for what it is. But next week we head into the GT4 category, then we go to the 992 Cup car. So our car's difficulty will progressively get harder as we go throughout this season. So this is a good way to get everyone's kind of refreshed on racing and iRacing after having a couple months off. There was a big slide up the road. Didn't quite catch who that was, but someone went for a wide line at the exit of turn 7.
There was, and if we go back to where Val DiPietro and Nathan Adler, the cars we were just watching, they've just come together, meaning their battle for 15th is now a battle rather than just cruising around the racetrack. Got a heck of a run down the downhill, but right there, the white and blue MX5 with the kind of edited headlights, and then the green of Val DiPietro, that's the bump spot. You do not want to be on that bubble if you're Nathan Adler.
So Val DiPietro needs to pass Nathan Adler to move forward into the feature event. automatically. He'll still have another chance in the last chance qualifier, but you don't want to get yourself in that position, Tom. You want to qualify right away. If you finish 15th or better, you race tonight in the feature event. You can score points, and that's basically what Val needs to do. Has to run down that 37.
Exactly, and otherwise, Val here in the number 102 as he runs a little bit wide through West Bend. He will become the pole sitter for that last chance qualifier, which we'll talk about when we get there. Meanwhile, for 5th, looks like Darian Taggart was able to get through on Kevin Zhu last time through. We watched them go side by side into Big Bend on the start of this lap, and he's made it work. Now Kevin Zhu's got a lot of pressure from Ryan Kristoff.
Behind them, here comes Zach Battaglia. Actually make that shickle around Battaglia. This is a great battle here for 12th spot. And Nathan Adler just behind in that number 37. And I think Adler is going to hope that Battaglia and LePetri in the 86 don't continue to battle, because if they do, that could bring Val DiPietro into the mix. Again, when you fight, you're going to slow each other down, Tom, and that's not what Adler needs right now. He needs to drive away, and I think he is a little quicker than DiPietro at the moment. Another driver to keep an eye on is Finian D'Acuna lurking in the backdrop. If it gets messy up here, there's a couple more drivers, including Benson Tai, that would like to jump into the mix.
We've seen it dozens of times where an incident in the 10th to 15th place range kind of promotes one of these drivers like Val DiPietro, Finian D'Acuna, Benson Tai up into that top 15 cutoff. We hate to see it. We don't want to see that happen with these 10th to 15th place guys, but you see how easily it can be as they can press down into turn number 1. Ooh, big lunge on the brakes for that Goodrich livery car. I think that's Peter Lausen.
That is Peter Lausen in the number 56. He started in 10th, has gone effectively nowhere. Seems like progress is very hard to make, but this is what's so awesome about GridLife iRacers, is how competitive it is. Everyone's basically stuck because they're all so good. That's not a problem. That's not a bad problem for us, at least, to watch, but it is a problem for the drivers.
It really is. It was like the top 30 covered by a second here at Lime Rock, and it is a fairly simple track and a relatively easy car to control, so that's why it is such a great entry point here. But it looks like Lausen is the last clinging on to this battle, which is really igniting now. Bob Casera runs wide.
Down the hill now in turn 7. That's going to be a touch. The 7 and the 56 make contact. Lausen gathers it up and they stay in line, but that could be very dicey. Wow, look at the 86 car. Josh LePetri off in the backdrop, and here comes the 37 of Adler. Into turn 1 now. The Adler car on the brakes a little bit later. Can he get it woed down? Yes, he does, and he completes the pass and moves into 14th place. Now LePetri is the driver on the bubble.
Still got a buffer back to Val DiPietro, but you do not want to see that 16th place car in your mirrors, as it now develops a really good battle here for about 18th. Finian D'Acuna leading the way in 17th. Benson Tai, Justin Tizano, Tom Eaton, and a bunch more cars stacked up there for 17th.
They're going to all have to fight in the LCQ if they stay where they are for now. Look at the 7 popping out of line. Lucas Webster. Here comes Lausen up the inside. That's a tricky spot to make a pass. The 22 gets turned.
That's the incident we were talking about. Both cars going to run wide. They're both going to fall into the clutches of Val DiPietro for 16th and 17th. Not a lot of damage to either car. This is the 22 now we watch of Andre Garcia, who was, remember, up in about 7th or 8th. Had one incident and has now had a second that's dropped him outside of the top 15.
Well, he's going to have a chance to get it back, but only about 2 laps left to do it. He's got to get by this green car of Val DiPietro. That's the bubble spot. DiPietro in that green car. Here comes Garcia right to the rear bumper through turn 1. This is very, very tight here. And this is just the first round, the first heat. It's going on here in the SimCity Challenge presented by Valvoline. Through turn number 3 and 4, Garcia right to the rear bumper of DiPietro, riding on board with the 15th place car. A lot of compression. The suspension does a lot of work in these cars, especially on the uphill and downhill, almost compressing the body into the pavement. Watch that 22 just dance, clips the curb a little bit. DiPietro's wide in the grass, a wiggle and a wobble. He gathers it up.
Right on the ragged edge, but he's still wide through the downhill. The 22 is going to get a bit of a run. Andre Garcia nowhere to go, shuts to the inside, and Val DiPietro covers him. This is the battle for pole in the last chance qualifier. Neither of them want that pole position, though. White flag is out.
One more lap around Lime Rock Park. This is the transfer spot. 15th and better qualifies for the... Oh, there's a crash, and LePetri's off in turn 1. Drama's here. Now DiPietro and Lausen are both in.
Lausen's involved as well. He's just now rejoining the circuit.
Oh, man, there's chaos up front. Look at this. Oh, man, D'Acuna's under fire. This is all sorts of chaos here through turn 1. 54 car in it as well. That's Justin Tizano. That's a big slide for him. So transfer car is Benson Tai. Tom Eaton is in the mix now. Out front, the driver who's going to take home the win and the overall pole. This is Heat 1 win goes to Andrew Pilata. Highcotter will start behind him, but for 15th place, Benson Ty and Tom Eaton. It's going to come down to the last corner. Here comes that 81.
Oh, boy. Only one of these cars will make it into the feature race based on this. It looks like the 503 Benson Ty did just enough of a job down the downhill to earn himself a way in. And that's going to put Tom Eaton on pole for the last chance qualifier. So it's Pilata, Highcotter, Marc-Antoine Blaise, Kyle Herbst, and Darian Taggart racing up into the top 5. Shuffling, it looks like, where did Kevin Zhu end up? Actually 9th. Kevin Zhu got shuffled back quite a bit from that 4th place running spot at one point.
So some dramas there towards the end, but have a look at our race results. There's Pilata, Highcotter, Blaise, Herbst, Taggart in the top 5, but 15th, Benson Ty, and everyone in front of him are the drivers that will move on to the feature race here in just a moment. So with all that out of the way, that was our first of our 2 heats. Again, we'll have an LCQ as well, but moving on now to heat number 2, and this is where some of our other familiar drivers and familiar faces jump into the mix. How about DJ Alessandrini, Paul Darling, James Cathers, Tala Sadiq, Jake Gertzen, Jackson Robillard, Ryan Carwile, all these names, Ken Alseal, all these names have been here before, Tom. This is going to be an extremely competitive heat.
It really isn't. We thought the first heat seemed competitive. That was only half of them. Yeah, now we insert the rest of them in. I'm looking for Ken Alseal. Do you see his qualifying 14th? The 23 car is going to be fun to watch this time through. He was 2nd in practice.
Yeah, he is that blue and green car right in the middle of your screen. Actually, I think I might be able to. Oh, I certainly can circle him. I still got all my tools and toys running here.
You done this before?
Maybe a little bit. So Ken Alseal starts 14th. Yes, he's going to have to finish there or better if he wants to move on in the feature race. We'll pace one more time before we turn him loose for our second heat tonight. Oh boy, it's good stuff. And our resident Adam Jabay sitting up there on the wall.
Adam got tan.
I was going to say, I would love if we could texture the flagger to look like Adam.
I mean, you could just insert the picture of him waving the flag right there, right?
That would, a GIF would be amazing. I got to get the GIF.
We'll make that happen next week.
That's got to be a thing.
Tune in next week to see Adam Jabay wave the checkered.
All right, rolling off now. Hi, Adam. Adam is here watching.
He is watching.
GRIDLIFE's Lord and Savior.
All right, Chad, who you got? Is it Alessandrini? Is it Darling? Is it Cathers? Is it Alseal from 14th? I mean, could be any of them.
I pick Alseal. I think he's going to come from the back on a mission. He's going to drive over like the movie cars. He's going to sail over everybody.
He's going to win with his tongue out.
Exactly. He'll have his tongue out whether he wins or not. I'll promise you that. All right. Well, DJ Alessandrini, the resident GRIDLIFE iRacer victor.
Yeah, he's in the orange kind of. It looks like flames, but it's actually just streaks of color there by Rob Wilkinson on the inside front row, and then Paul Darling in the black and yellow. Black and yellow on the outside.
Saw that coming.
James Cathers, Tala Sadiq, a great qualifying effort there in the kind of chrome airplane livery.
Love that.
Then Mark Lebance and Jake Gertzen. That's going to be your top 3 rows.
I think we're just going to fix that.
Well, no one noticed before.
And carry on now as we head down the hill now. DJ Alessandrini on pole for our second heat tonight. Again, the top 15 drivers move on to the feature. Bottom 15 will have to contest with the bottom 15 from the first heat. The top 10 of those will move on. Adam Jabay has the flag in hand. Vacation Jabay. And time to go racing. Green flag flies and racing at Lime Rock in GRIDLIFE iRacers SimCity Challenge presented by Valvoline. The run down to turn 1 already. The front couple rows sorted out. It's chaos behind him though. 3 wide, the 35 car. Robbins is in the middle. They get it sorted out.
Oh, the 17 in way too deep. That was Wyatt Gooden, and then takes out the 35, goes for almost a tumble.
Here's Ken Alseal in the middle of it all. That one of the other cars involved, I think, was Jake Gertzen, so he gets shuffled back. Ooh, there's another spin there. The 29 car of Duncan James goes for a loop.
So heat 1 way cleaner than heat 2 so far, as we're just now on to no name straight. Alessandrini, Darling, and Cathers are going to be a breakaway at the top 3 before we get to Tala Sadiq there in the silver, and then the yellow of Mark Lebance. So the top 5 haven't changed much, but Jackson Robillard charging up for a little bit of pressure. That's in the green and blue.
On board now with Jackson Robillard. This livery you might have seen in the real world Global MX5 Challenge. That's because Jackson raced there. So this car has a real world equivalent. That's tight at the exit of the corner.
Jackson, he was asking for it. He said, smack me, and you lifted. Down
the front straightaway now in behind. Lebance on the brakes a little bit earlier. Peter Zhang, another GridLife time attacker running 25th, so he's got some work to do. A bobble from the 39 of Sadiq. That's going to send Labance wide. Here comes Robillard.
Whoa, and the 17 of Wyatt Gooden tries to get back up the inside. Maybe I had the 17 wrong at the incident turn 1. He might have salvaged it. It was Gertzen, not, it was the 70. Do we have multiple 17s? What did I do? It was the 16.
Yes.
It was the 16, that's why, okay.
Yes, I was going to say there was a 117. It's like real life, trying to figure out what numbers
are
on the car.
numbers?
No, but, I mean, are you? I don't know. I don't think historically that's been a problem of yours, but here's Nelson Jones, a little wide up the hill. Here comes there's a spin in the background. Save me from having to say that name. Roger Romero keeps it off the fence. As we go back to 15th, this is a driver that is extremely talented, and I believe was also at the runoffs this past week, was he not? Justin Hilly in the number 48.
He sure was, fresh off a week in his Spec Racer Ford at the SCCA runoffs and jumping right back into his sim rig there in that dark maroon car. He's going to have to change the livery, Justin. You got a new car. You're going to have to update it there in the sim, but he is on our bubble right now for that feature race. Nelson Jones, just behind in the objectively raddest livery on the track.
So cool.
Is pressuring to get into that feature race.
Oh, that is like a 1990s Honda Civic seat. I love it. In front of them, that's Max Baumann in the Lego car. He's got to keep all the pieces together because he's 14th right now. And here comes Hilly. He wants to grab a spot away.
Hilly's another driver like Hausiel that was way further down the order than they should have been by typical results. So maybe just kind of jumping back into the sim for fun tonight, getting back up to speed. I wouldn't be surprised to see him be able to pass this 89 car, Max Baumann. But we've seen successful runs from Baumann before as well. So that just might kind of be a commentary on the stoutness of this field.
Well, a big curb climb there for Hilly at corner exit. He's going to have a fantastic run here on the front straightaway. Talas Sadiq is a little slow. He's getting past. Here comes Labance around the outside as we jump back to that battle for 14th. Baumann on the outside, Hilly on the inside.
And Hilly's going to go through pretty easily here into Big Bend, so now it's going to put Baumann on the bubble. Ooh, a nose shown for Nelson Jones, the 27, trying to get up the inside. Lego versus, what's the Trapper Keeper person? Oh, no. I'll get it. Don't worry about it. Move on.
Okay, Max Baumann in the 89. Trying to run away from Nelson Jones, who's right behind. Climbing the hill once again. Lap 4 of about 11 in this feature, or this heat race. The feature coming up in just a couple minutes. Ahead of them, here's Adam Kobach battling with the 24 of Ken Roller. In the Hoonigan car. Great looking livery on that thing, that's for sure. Oh, Robillard's off.
He is, and he's dropping quickly. Lisa Frank is who I'm thinking of.
Oh,
no one got that reference.
That's big damage for Jackson Robillard. That car is destroyed. Go back and see how that happened. Oh, he was damaged a long way.
I wonder if he caught grass on the way in. This happened really early. Oh, no, the 17 shunted him right off the track. Wyatt Gooden takes over the 5th spot, but with a lot of attrition to Jackson Robillard's car.
Yeah, that is not a fun way to go out for Jackson Robillard. He will have to contest in the last chance qualifier in a little bit. Meanwhile, out front, DJ Alessandrini leads Paul Darling by a full half second. It's not a whole lot. James Cathers is in 3rd. And then how about Ken Hausiel all the way up to 4th place? That's an incredible climb. And we'll jump back to Justin Hilly, Max Baumann, Adam Kobach, and Nelson Jones. This is all your battle for 15th. Jones has it, and then 999 if Yuki Takanashi wants it. Yuki Takanashi, excuse me, and then 999.
Oh, and Takanashi's got to run around the outside, has to slap back in. They are literally nose to tail. The 27, that's 15th, goes for a big ride. Jones is off. It's going to shuffle back to 16th, maybe 17th.
Whoa. Tag the 999 in the left rear corner. And here comes the 46 up the inside.
Not going to try it?
Nope. Oh, contact there with the 46 and 999. Here comes Takanashi back down the inside now. This is all for 15th spot. The 27 car is a transfer now.
Wow, within 2 corners, Nelson Jones goes from 15th to 17th and back to 15th as Yuki Takanashi's got a bunch of pressure still. The 999 there, and then in the background, it's Buzas in the 46, the yellow car. And they're going to lose quite a bit of ground as Takanashi has to go defensive coming out of that right-hander.
Takanashi has to make it to the feature because that's the coolest name I've seen in iRacing in at least 6 months.
Whoa, full send through the uphill.
Got to catch about 7/10 to get back up to Nelson Jones. He's got a couple minutes left to do it. 4 minutes. It's about 5 laps here at Lime Rock Park.
Alessandrini still leading. Darling 2nd, Cathers 3rd. They've stagnated about a quarter second apart. This is way more fun to watch here for 15th. Hausiel, as you mentioned, is up to 5th. Wyatt Gooden still in 4th.
Well, Hausiel was up to 4th, and Wyatt Gooden is passing him, who just shuffled him back in turn 1. And Halseal wants it back, crossover in turn 3.
Just flat out through the right-hander, which they do actually call the right-hander, onto No Name Straight. Halseal's tucked into the draft, and this is the difference between 8th or 10th on the grid for the feature race. So again, the implications of your finishing position here in this feature heat race are very important for the feature race.
Get a really good perspective of the uphill climb from that drone shot. Big jump over the curb at turn 6, all the way out to the rumble strip under the bridge. Battle for 4th still ensuing. Let's jump back again to 15th place, see who's got it, see who wants it. Jones and Takanashi. That gap is closing again for the 999.
Right on the grass on turn in there. You got to use the kind of compression as the track levels out. Whoa, big ride for Buzas. Going to lose all hope of tagging onto the back of Takanashi and Jones.
Yeah, that's a lot of work left to do. Here comes Alfred Rodriguez up the inside of Neil Hancock. That is for 19th place. And Spencer Elliott past Duncan James, or vice versa. James around the outside of Elliott through turn 1. And how about 7th place? Ryan Carwile feeling some heat from Matthew Morhart behind. That's for 7th. You can hear the car get light and the revs climb as they crest that hill. Right to corner exit. Remember what we're racing for tonight. After this heat race, after our last chance qualifier, after our feature, the drivers will earn points. The top 16 after 3 rounds will compete virtually as we head to Las Vegas for our GRIDLIFE Game Night. We'll invite 8 of the top qualifiers on site at SEMA to join them and race head-to-head in a 24-driver feature race, 4 10-minute races on November 4th. Here is Ryan Carwile and Matthew Morhart nose to tail here through turn 3.
Ooh, and Morhart started to move Carwile just a little bit into the left-hander, but didn't quite get the job done. A little bit of that NASCAR bump and run, but he didn't get to run away with it.
Well, back to 15th place. Yuki Takanashi's gotten it away from Nelson Jones. I don't think Jones is done yet. The 24 car is off. That's Ken Roller. Big climb. Oh, there's a bobble. The 91 of Kovac gathers it up. Here comes Yuki Takanashi to the inside. That's for 14th place now. The 27 needs to pass one of these cars to make it in.
And he's got to run. Shows the nose into the downhill, but not quite able to get it done. Slots back in line. And now this, what was a 6-car battle, has turned back into a 3-car battle for the 15th spot. Yuki Takanashi in 14th in the 999, the white car. Then the bubble boy is Adam Kovac in the orange and blue, with a big run from Nelson Jones. Going to lunge up the inside into Big Bend.
Oh, that's really deep, too deep. He's going to grab Takanashi and send him for a huge slide at turn 1 and backs it hard into the barriers, and that is so unfortunate for Takanashi, who is doing so well, but just gets cleared out there, Tom.
Yeah, things getting desperate here with 2 laps to go. It's a good look at it. Down the front straightaway, the draft is just almost too much to deny coming into turn 1, and it's almost easy to forget how much space you pick up on that draft, and then a big hit for Takanashi into the tires.
Back to 15th place. Buzas is the driver that will transfer now. He's kind of in no man's land for now. Kovac is currently locked in. The 41 of Andrew Chow has an opportunity to get to Buzas, but up front, white flag, final lap around for Alessandrini, Darling, and Cathers.
I was keeping an eye on this battle, and Cathers was adding a ton of pressure to the back of Darling, but that has kind of fallen off, and this battle has not gone anywhere. Halseal versus Gooden. Halseal now takes the spot in the blue front end, and then the black and blue of Wyatt Gooden slots in behind. This is for 4th and 5th.
Crossover for the big left-hander here now. Gooden. Oh, big nose slide there. Big understeer for the number 17 car. Mark Labance tries to close in. Carwile not too far behind. And last time down the back straightaway, there's Alessandrini and Paul Darling nose to tail. Does Darling have anything for DJ in the final couple corners?
It's going to be close, and it's worth noting this is an open setup series, so these drivers could put whatever setup they want on the MX-5s, and while it's not a huge amount of options, looks like Darling's car is really good at the end here.
Coming to the checkers. Heat 2 goes to DJ Alessandrini. He'll be on the outside pole. Paul Darling, James Cathers, the rest of the top 3. Checkered flag for the front drivers here. Ken Halseal will come home in 4th after starting 14th. There's a drag race behind them. That's Ryan Carwile and Matthew Morhart to the line. Carwile gets him by, how about 14 thousandths of a second? And for the transfer spot, Buzas is going to grab it. Kovac is in, Roller's in, Bauman's in, Hilly's in. And Heat 2 is complete. Drivers out. Andrew Chow, Nick Nelson, Peter Zhang, Spencer Elliott, Jackson Robillard will have to fight from the LCQ, so there's some dramas there in that one for sure, Tom.
Yeah, pretty intense. The first heat much cleaner than the second, but things are going to kind of shift focus into getting into the top 10 for the next one. So we've been racing for the top 15 in the first 2 heat races. The top 10 is the critical zone to be in for this last chance qualifier. And just a quick shout out to Allison Drini to compartmentalize real life versus sim racing. He was under his real race car for GLTC 45 minutes ago fixing a transmission that's been giving him fits for a month and just hopped on the sim and won that heat race. That's pretty good. We would expect nothing less, I should say, but also that's still pretty good. Don't take anything away from him.
So heading back down to our LCQ. So how does this work? Well, Tom, you just basically explained it. We have the bottom 15 from each of our heats. Now only 10 will move on to the feature. So on the left-hand side of your screen, there is the starting lineup. Tom Eaton, Andrew Chow, Finian D'Acuna, Alfred Rodriguez, Peter Lausen, your front 5. Neil Hancock, Tizano, James Bachman, and Nelson. As it stands, they are in. But Chris Hart, Nelson Jones, everyone behind must advance higher than 10th position to make it into the feature. And this is the last chance. It
is the last chance. So the top 10 get into that feature race. Someone to keep an eye on is going to be Yuki Takanashi from 20th. Remember, that driver was challenging for essentially a free ride into the feature already. There's the 999 from 20th on this grid. Jackson Robillard right behind. There's another driver that's going to be a lot of fun. Those two maybe can team up. Matt Murphy is the 3rd. Matt Murphy in the 136, which I think is the kind of anime car there. There you go. There's forward. As soon as he gets it into forward, I think he was up quite a bit in one of his heat races as well.
Into forward is like it's a locomotive.
Yeah, you have to put it in F.
Yes.
You know, on the Prindle, you put it in F.
I thought you put it in R for race mode, right? All right, Tom Eaton out front in the number 81. Andrew Chow, Finian D'Acuna, Alfred Rodriguez, Peter Lausen, again your top 5. And the top 10 move on. All right. Again, we're all racing this season for the next 3 weeks here at Lime Rock with the MX5s, the GT4 cars next week at Mosport, the Porsche 992 Cup at Austria's Red Bull Ring. The next 3 weeks, racing here in GridLife iRacers. If you'd like to join the Discord. You can find it on the GridLife Facebook page. And then you can come join us and run with us here in the GridLife iRacers Sim City Challenge presented by Valvoline.
I'm glad you just said that because I realized how silly it would be if someone just tuned in and this music would make no sense.
Yes, we are all the last event's in Las Vegas. That's the whole thematic neon thing. Yeah. All right. Well, it's great jam either way. You know?
The chat loves it right now too. Actually,
I would bet. I mean, imagine how much viewership IMSA would get if NBC played this. It'd be. I mean, I think there's something there.
Break the internet.
Probably. All right. Can you imagine John Hindhoff announcing with this in the background? Oh, that is glorious. All right. Our discount Adam Jabay at the flag stand is going to bring us to the green flag. Another 10-minute race. Green flag flies, and we're racing in the LCQ. 10 drivers advance to the feature.
No breakaway in this one. It's going to be side-by-side coming into the Big Bend. Chow around the outside trying to make it work. I hear some contact in the background. The 24 and the 136 are going to go into the wall.
Yeah, a couple drivers looping at the 21, as you mentioned, Alberto Rivera. Tom Eaton's off. The pole sitter spinning at the exit at turn 1. Back across the racetrack. Jumps on the brakes just in time. Whoa, D'Acuna really wide in turn 2. This is frantic stuff back here. 10th spot right now. LePetri, no. Nelson's off. Can he gather it back up? Oh, into the tire barriers and gets clobbered. Oh, man. Got a feel for Nick Nelson.
Yeah, and it looked like that actually started from the car on his inside, hitting the inside curb through the right-hander and just bounces right back into that same exact car, actually, but takes a couple more with him as collateral damage. Through, though, quickly are Yuki Takanashi, Jackson Robillard, the 2 cars we were excited to watch, have both made their way close to the top 10. Robillard's already in.
Yeah, Robillard is in it. That's amazing because you remember where he started. He was back in 22nd to 9th in a lap at Lime Rock. That's like a mile.
Yeah. In 50 seconds, he's passed half the field, and he's going to go for 4 more up the inside, side by side with Nelson Jones.
Well, this is good stuff. Robillard looking out for Nelson Jones. Oh, there's a touch there, a slide, gather it back up. Oh, Nelson's going to be on the inside now. Can he gather it back up? Slides across the racetrack. Yes, he does.
That was pretty awkward. Just got him in the right spot coming off of Big Ben towards the left-hander and just loosened him up in a way that kind of, I don't think Jones was expecting it, but now Robillard leads this pack. No, there's one car just in front of him. Josh LePetri is the last car before we get up into that top 5.
So right now the driver that is in is Roger Romero in the number 117. Behind him, Nelson Jones is out. He will need to pass. Big curb jump there through turn number 6. And Yuki Takanashi sits 12th right now. He needs to grab 2 spots to advance. And the car behind him, Brandon Bachman, is damaged. That will be helpful to Takanashi as we compete in our LCQ. Up front, here comes Alfred Rodriguez for the lead. This is basically battling for 30th in the feature race, at least for the start. And Finian D'Acunha watching from behind.
D'Acuna's in the catbird seat right now, just watching these guys kind of go at it. He gets to be pretty patient because he's got no one behind him. Just Lausen a couple car lengths back. Whoa, big float for the 15 of Rodriguez. Chow's going to keep the spot, but now a little bit of a run for D'Acunha. Do you do it in the uphill? I think not. He lifted.
Yeah, he's going to stay in line right now. He's qualified in. That's all that matters for the moment. Don't throw it all away right here, right now. It's not the time, not the place. So nice and tidy up front. Meanwhile, for 10th, Romero is in, but Nelson Jones is there. Jones needs to pass that gray and yellow 117. Here's the run. He's going to do it to the inside of turn 7. Backs out, thinks better of it. Might let the 117 overdrive the exit, but Romero keeps it on course eloquently there.
Jones somehow finding himself on the bubble in both his heat and the last chance qualifier. That's got to be a little bit frustrating, but he's sitting 11th right there. The yellow of Roger Romero is the guy that he's chasing, and then this guy, Yuki Takanashi, in 12th. Just needs to pick up about 10 car lengths before he gets himself into the threat for making the feature race.
Really solid apex through turn 1, getting the right side tires up on the curb to help the car rotate. Beautifully done. Apexing very late in turn 3, off of it maybe by a foot, grabs the grass. That's dicey. Up front, D'Acunha under fire from Peter Lausen. That's tight for turn 6. And D'Acunha is going to let Lausen go by. I don't think he wants to contest that in that area of the racetrack.
Trying to remember exactly what happened to Lausen to shuffle him back into this last chance qualifier phase, but I think it was because of a dive bomb from another driver. He was kind of, again, collateral damage down into Big Bend on the brakes. So this is a driver that we wouldn't expect to necessarily see in this position typically, but he found himself here and he's challenging for the win, but D'Acuna's coming back at him.
And there's a battle for the lead as well, so 1st and 3rd under fire. Chow hangs on. D'Acunha gets back to 3rd place. Can he chop the door on Peter Lausen? He does, back to 3rd place.
And in the background now, Neil Hancock has caught this, so this is now a 5-car battle for the lead. Chow, Rodriguez are still the top 2. They clearly have the pace, but every time they bicker, they come back into this battle for 3rd.
Chow goes very defensive on the back straightaway. Meanwhile, in 10th place, Roger Romero and Nelson Jones continue to be separated by about 2/10, but the battle for 3rd is very close. Here comes Lausen again. Better in the uphill than D'Acunha, but D'Acunha keeps the door slammed shut on the 56.
Sometimes you just got to put elbows out to either defend or attack here at Lime Rock Park because there's just not a lot, like you mentioned, other than the braking zone down into Big Bend. And even still, these cars, they really only brake at the 2 board and just kind of throw it in there. Big curb hop for Lausen at the downhill.
That was about as much as you can take it without knocking the tire through the fender. 3-way battle for 2nd on the run down to turn 1. D'Acunha up the inside now. Great battles here in the LCQ. Again, 10th and forward moves to the feature. So Romero, Harp, Zhang, Lepetri, Robillard, Hancock, Rodriguez, Lausen, D'Acunha, and Chow are all in. D'Acuna's off course and he spins. Finian D'Acunha loops it at the exit at turn 3.
Heartbreaking. That was such a good charge for the 94. The best number there is in racing.
And has to wait to turn back around. Oh, did he have some help, maybe?
Well, it looks like they were all pretty late coming off the left-hander. They're pushing so hard, and they're going to get on power here. Looks like they kind of all start to pick up the power soon.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, he did get help. Look at that. Lausen turned him.
Yeah, I think D'Acunha was a little lazy on the throttle there, and that's what helped him get kind of punted from behind. And Lausen under fire from Alfred Rodriguez from behind as well. So this is getting spicy for 2nd.
Rodriguez going the wrong way, finding himself in all the wrong battles, but he's still got a nose there coming into Big Bend. He's deep on the brakes, but Lausen now breaks him from the outside, doing it for Dale, trying to run the high side through Big Bend. It doesn't work.
Yeah, the 15 just got such a great run through the middle of turn 1 and hooked that curb on the inside, allowed him to drive right past Neil Hancock. And how about Jackson Robillard? Do you remember where he started in this one? 22nd.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know, but that's last in this right now.
Pretty much. And he ended up there not in the zone accord. He got shoved off the track in his heat race, but he's going to get racy, showing up nose into the uphill on the 52 of Neil Hancock. It's not going to work this time, but any amount of pressure like that can cause the driver in front of you to make the mistake, and that could what ultimately end up getting you the position.
Down the inside here for turn number 7. Big slide from Rodriguez at corner exit. Now 4 laps to go. Robillard pops out of line to drag race the 52 of Hancock down the front straight. Now it's a braking battle, and the 98, I think, is going to win this on the inside, and he does. Hancock is a little wide, a little too wide, actually.
Wow, I can't believe he kept that on the track. He had the outside tires in the gravel and the dirt, and that never works here at Lime Rock. That's a good way to first class ticket to the wall, but he saved it. Did Neil Hancock, and now Jackson Robillard 22nd to 4th. Can he podium? What if he podiums?
That would be phenomenal. I think you should give him the trophy right now as we head down the back straightaway. This is some good stuff up front. Chow enjoyed a lead for a little while, but Rodriguez is back to 2nd and coming quick. Last time by was a 10th quicker, and how about this? It was also his best lap of the race. Through turn 7 now, coming to 3 laps to go.
It's going to go really quick. We've got 2 drivers who got done dirty there in their heat races. That's Lausen and Robillard trying to fight their way from 3rd and 4th on the grid right now. Chow, feeling the pressure, goes straight to the inside wall, tries to fend off Alfred Rodriguez.
It's a chess match down the front straightaway. The 41 and 15, door to door through the first corner. Lausen watching from behind. That was almost a touch there. Lausen to the rear bumper of the 41. He's battling for 2nd with Rodriguez as they head to 3 now. Oh, contact, the 41 gets turned, the leader spins. And just like that, Chow gets turned, and he's going to drop out of the front 10 and out of the feature event.
And that looked like Chow kind of sort of thought Rodriguez was there and was going to give him room and decided not to. I think they couldn't quite tell. Oh, he just turned in super hard. Didn't realize that the other car was still there, the 15 of Rodriguez. I don't know if I can fault that. If you come back, look at this. He kind of opens up the entry to the corner just a moment. Right there, it looks like he was going to give him room and then just cuts hard down the 15.
Yeah.
Turns him across the nose by, I would say no fault of his own.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for Andrew Chow. He's currently 11th. He's got to make up 1.3 seconds to catch Roger Romero. That would put him in the top 10. Look who snuck in there. Yuki Takanashi's back in. And popping out of line for a run down into turn 1. Well, he's through. Grabs that spot decisively. Up front, how about a battle for the lead? Rodriguez and Lausen this time.
This one's not going anywhere. Lausen has got a little bit of pressure still from Robillard as they've broken away from Josh the Patriot. 2 more laps to go. Call it 1.5 at this point. Lausen's got the pressure on big time. Shows the nose at the inside of No Name Straight. Alberto Rodriguez, they're side by side for the uphill.
Oh, that's dicey. He can't do that very well, but Rodriguez bails, and Robillard takes it too. He goes for 2nd place.
That's a twofer, and now our 2 guys that wanted to get to the top, Lausen and Robillard, have got there coming to the white flag.
That was phenomenal. Robillard from 22nd to 2nd in 10 laps here at Lime Rock. That is phenomenal, sim or otherwise. Bouncing over the curbs, white flag from the discount Adam Jabay on the flag stand. 1.5 miles left here at Lime Rock.
Yeah, 1.2 to 1.5, something like that. Not very far. Most of the way around Connecticut, though.
Takanashi up the inside for 7th place on Chris Harp. And Takanashi is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the mid-pack in this feature. He has been very consistently quick. And Andrew Chow, again, was leading this LCQ. Is 1.2 seconds out. He's going to need some help if he needs to move on.
And he's not super far. Roger Romero there in the yellow and black number 117 is 10th place. This is the battle for the bubble getting into the feature race. And we know that Chow is really quick. He's got a long way to go, though, for not a very long distance on this track.
Certainly does, and that is unfortunate, but that's how it is sometimes. Coming back to the checkers, Peter Lausen in the number 56 started this LCQ in 5th place. He goes from 5th to 1st, but perhaps the more impressive climb for Jackson Robillard, 22nd to 2nd. He will start 32nd in our feature race here in just a couple of minutes. Lausen, Robillard, Lepecci, Rodriguez, Hancock, Zhang, Takanashi, Harp, Nelson Jones, and Roger Romero move on to the feature race.
Great run for Peter Zhang, a time attack competitor in the GRIDLIFE Track Battle Series from 14th to 6th there in that dark blue number 55. We didn't talk about it much, but killer job.
Yeah, did a really solid job in the number 55. We'll follow him through the rest of the night. And now it's all what you've been waiting for, the 20-minute feature race here for the GRIDLIFE SimCity Challenge presented by Valvoline, round number 1. 20 minutes, Tom, so double the length of our previous races with 40 drivers, the top 40 from the qualifying that we just did. It's time to go racing. This is for points. This counts towards the top 16 drivers that will head virtually to Las Vegas on November 4th.
Yeah, essentially represent the GRIDLIFE iRacers virtually at GRIDLIFE Game Night when we're there in Las Vegas live in person. It's Pilata, Allison Drini, Heitcotter, Darling are the top 4. A series of names we've got. I mean, essentially, I would say that's an autocross Pinnacle driver. That's a GLTC Pinnacle driver, a Pro Racing Pinnacle driver, and a flagger from Real World that is now getting into racing between those 4. That's a cool little combo there.
Certainly is. Again, the SimCity Challenge presented by Valvoline, round number 1. Points paying race about to begin. And I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by Tom O'Gorman. And make sure that you tune in this weekend. Right now we're virtually racing, but this weekend we're going to be heading to Road America, America's National Park of Speed, for the GRIDLIFE finale, the Elkhart Color Classic, and the live stream on Saturday and Sunday will be our final one for the season, and we're going to have a very special guest. It will be Greg Kramer back in the booth as he was at Mid-Ohio, and this time I'm not going to miss it. I will be there as well. Tom, I'm really, really excited.
So I wouldn't jerk your chain like that, Mike Pico. I see you in the chat. That's for real. You got Kyle Heyer and Greg Kramer on the mic this weekend for GLTC. You might even see me on the track. Who knows?
I'm really excited for that. Of course, GRIDLIFE Touring Cup season finale will happen this weekend as well. And the battle in the championship is only 9 points between Jeremy Swenson, Eric Cattell, and Tom, you're back there about 43 points back. You got a teammate, Andy Smedegard, in the mix. You've got Luke McGrew, Aaron Lichty, all within mathematical possibility of coming away with the championship.
But we just like to race with our friends and try to win races. You know, the series championship is one thing. The weekend championship is the main thing, but having a good time is still above all that. We've got the ASM block party. If you're at Road America this weekend, we've got free food, free drinks, free everything, entertainment, whatever. I don't know if we have entertainment. Definitely not karaoke. Sorry,
I'll be the entertainment.
Okay, we've got live Kyle entertainment of some form in the garages that night. Don't miss it. If you can just come and hang out, you're still welcome. Can't wait to see everybody at Road America this weekend.
All right, Vinny Nakuna's in the chat, says, quote, I cry. Sorry, buddy. Better luck next time. You get to drop a round, so not all 3 rounds count for points. You take your best 2 as we head up the hill for the final time under pacing condition. We're going to turn them loose for 20 minutes in the GRIDLIFE SimCity Challenge presented by Valvoline. All right, Andrew Pilata, DJ Alessandrini, Brian Heitkotter, Paul Darling, Marc-Antoine Blazier, top 5. Tom, 20 minutes at Lime Rock Park. That's about 21 to 22 laps.
It's a long time. I think the setup's going to come into this one. Who's got the longevity? And we saw Darling have a really strong car at the end of the last race, but he starts on that outside second row, the yellow. I mean, who knows? Just got to keep it clean for the first half.
Here we go. Time to go racing.
Wow, early jump for Pilata. Alessandrini's going to jump in behind him, actually, before they even get to the green flag. Look at that.
And 40 of the best GRIDLIFE iRacers down to turn number 1 on the brakes. Pilata leads them. They're 3 wide behind him. The 33 cars in the middle of it all as we get through turn 1. So far, so good. I think everybody's going the right direction. That's great to see. And just like that, the GRIDLIFE iRacers show once again that we can handle a 40-car start at one of the tightest tracks in North America.
It's so far, so good. Around the outside, the 38 of Kevin Zhu is still side-by-side with the Van Halen reference livery of the 33. Ooh, it was really tight behind them, though.
Down into turn number 5, the uphill this time through. Whoa, big slide for Pilata. Alessandrini sideways with Heitkotter on the attack.
Oh, and someone in the bottom of the hill got turned. That's the 92, I think, maybe.
Oh, big wreck in the background. That's a huge crash.
Oh, no, we talked him up too much.
Oh, man, a bunch of cars getting turned around there. That was a huge crash.
It was about 10 cars totaled there, maybe 12. But the top 10 breakaway, it's still Pilata, Heitkotter, Darling, Alessandrini with that big wiggle, drops back to 4th. James Cathers makes his way up to 5th, and Ken Hausiel to 6th. Heitkotter pressure big time on the back of Pilata, who defends into turn 1.
Yeah, Heitkotter is there again, the 2011 GT Academy winner, and right behind Pilata, who slides through turn 3, leaving tire marks behind him. Look in the background. Paul Darling, DJ Alessandrini, James Cathers. This is the best of the best of the best in the GRIDLIFE iRacer series.
Clinging on with them are Wyatt Good and Kyle Herbst, Lucas Webster. Ryan Kristoff is still in the background, as is Ryan Carwile. Because the top 12 are still a factor. Then, I mean, everybody who didn't just die in the uphill on the first lap, a lap ago, is kind of salvaging this one. But it looks like at least 10 drivers are in the pit lane.
Yeah, and one of those, Jackson Robillard, unfortunately, was one of them. Kevin Zhu, Matthew Morhart, Mark Labance, Peter Zhang. So a lot of our front runners or potential front runners involved in that one. Down the front straight, big defensive move from Pilata.
Now the key with Lime Rock is you can really make that inside work as long as you are kind of axle to axle with the car around your outside. That way it's even, but you see how he's just able to kind of cross across the nose of Heitkotter, but he's actually going to be very gracious. Heitkotter slices up the inside of the left-hander, and now it's up to Pilata to hold the outside.
Still a little overlap. Highcutter turns in and trusts that Pilata will lift. He does. Slots into line in second. Here comes Paul Darling, moves to driver's left. Whoa. On board with DJ Alessandrini, now climbing the hill again. And a very rare backwards drop for Alessandrini in the early moments of this one.
Well, we were distracted with the big crash in the uphill, but Alessandrini was about 45 degrees sideways coming over the crest, which we mentioned these cars can be a little bit diabolical on that first lap, and I think Alessandrini got caught out maybe just a little bit, as he is just now. Darling, and both he and Darling go off. That's maybe going to give Cathers a little bit of a run in that white neon green.
Tom uses the word diabolical a lot, so I Googled it before the live stream just to get an official definition. It means having the characteristic of the devil, which I found that was a really intense wording for that definition, but probably accurate as well.
Yeah, I mean, when you drive a scary race car, that's about accurate. You don't want any of the devil in your race car. But look at this top 7. Wyatt Gooden is the black and blue clung onto the back of that top 7 grouping. Then there may be a little bit of a break. Highcutter to the lead, though. This is a fantastic turn of events. The last couple times we've seen Highcutter in the GRIDLIFE iRacers, he was still on a learning curve for iRacing, and I think he maybe has broken through that.
Yeah, he certainly has. He spent a lot of time in Assetto Corsa Competizione. He spent a lot of time in Gran Turismo, but iRacing was never really one that he fully embraced, at least in the GRIDLIFE iRacers League. But here he is leading this thing. This is hard to do. And right now he's got the top spot. Here comes Paul Darling with a run to the inside of Pilata.
Again, axle to axle is the key. Whoever has a nose ahead coming in here, whether it's the outside or the inside, can make it work. But Pilata looks a little bit like he was kind of willing to slap back in line. But unfortunately, Alessandrini's there and is going to block him out from that run.
Down to the inside in turn 3. Pilata's got an opportunity to save this, but can DJ hold overlap? He cannot. Here comes Cathers to the left. And Ken House-Seal, who fought back in his heat race, is in the mix as well. Whoa, there's a big move up the inside from Wyatt Gooden. These two fought in the heat. They fight in the feature. Down the back straight here, heading towards turn 6.
Saw Wyatt Gooden just check the brake lights there. He actually broke to tuck it back in behind Ken House-Seal, but the 17 car wasn't afraid to throw a grenade on some battles there in the heat race. So now he's looking really, really racy on the back of House-Seal. Those two with the side-by-side have broken away from the top 5, falling back just a bit.
Now for third place. Pilata covers from Alessandrini, who sweeps back to the left on the run down to turn 1. Big bend. Pilata takes a big chunk of curb. Alessandrini tried to roll some speed, but had to give it up through the middle.
Pilata just doesn't have the confidence coming into turn 1. Whether he was on the inside or the outside, he loses the position. That's 3 laps in a row that he's lost the position to a car coming into turn 1 there. Whatever the setup choices he's made, or perhaps just the comfort level in the braking zone into turn 1, that's Big Ben. Just doesn't quite have it.
Wyatt Gooden again all over the back of Ken House-Seal. This is for 6th place. He keeps getting a little bit of overlap and having to back out of it, so it's probably more about timing those runs so that you get the overlap on corner exit rather than corner entry time.
Yeah, he's got the speed but doesn't know what to do with it yet, and that's the big challenge of Lime Rock, is there's not a lot to do with it, even if you're quicker. He gives himself some space. Maybe if he gets a good run down the downhill this time. Oh, as a bunch of cars drag dirt coming into... Yes, indeed, House-Seal dragged dirt coming through the downhill and is going to run a little bit wide. Gooden gets a run.
Side by side for 6th place now. Gooden to the inside. Ken House-Seal hang on. Gooden's almost, oh, is there going to be a touch there? Slides a little wide. Gathers it back up, tucks it in tight, and Gooden moves to 6th and slams the door shut on Ken House-Seal.
Highcutter, Darling, Alessandrini, Pilata, but the top 3 have broken away. Pilata doesn't look to have the raw pace in this longer run. We're only a quarter of the way through this one, and the number 96 has started to slip from pole to 4th.
Alessandrini now getting the legs under him now that we expect after the slip up on the start. He is back and ready to party. Here he comes to the inside. Paul Darling jumps on the binders just for a moment. Going to try to time this for the front straight.
And one thing I wonder is, again, these are open setup races. You can choose to make your setup however you like. We know the cars are loose in qualifying on just a 2-lap run. Perhaps Pilata gave himself some confidence with a good qualifying setup, but maybe it's a little bit tight here in the races. Doesn't rotate the way he wants. Maybe it doesn't have the speed.
Highcutter stays defensive on the front straightaway. Darling reels him in the brakes. Opens the door, though, for Alessandrini, who stuffs it down the inside and keeps it very tight through Big Ben.
Wow, power move for Alessandrini. Now he's got the high side, the left-hander, which is not nearly as easy to hold. Looks like he's going to have to slot back in line. Indeed, he does, to the late apex, and now slots back in. That's going to bring the rest of the top 5 back to him. Pilata and Cathers now a factor as well. And Wyatt Gooden, don't forget, a little bit of a wild card there in the 17th, 6th.
So 1 through, I think that's about 9 or 10 that are all in the front pack. Then it's 3.5 seconds back to Ryan Christoph, Luke Tucciarone, and Ryan Carwile, who are in a 3-horse fight. And Adam Kobach and Val DiPietro having a scrap back here as well. So there are good battles elsewhere, but up front it's the most volatile. 13 laps to go this time. Highcotter leads. Darling and Alessandrini trying to gang up on that leader as they all run wide out of 7.
You know, the only car that has been consistently a carbon copy lap after lap for as far as car placement and lines go is Brian Highcotter. He looks very composed, under control, but a big lunge from the outside.
I think
Darling.
He might have gotten punted from behind there in the middle of turn 1, but he's going to now face a fight from the inside of Paul Darling in turn 3, and it's pretty hard to stick on the outside here, but he's going to throw it in and try to keep that speed. Darling is going to clear him, though, in turn 3.
It's better for Alessandrini to let him back in line here than it is anything else. It sure does, and DJ knows that. He's raced these MX-5s plenty to understand that he needs to kind of admit that that battle is lost, but he still can win the war. Gooden up the inside of, whoa, in the background, James Cathers. They're side by side through the uphill. That's intense.
And they're somehow going to come out the other side of it facing the same direction. This 23 and 17, Houseel and Gooden have fought tooth and nail all night long tonight. I think they're going to be sick of each other by the end of it all.
And because of that charge that Gooden just made, the 17 car, actually Houseel picked up a spot from it, so now they've swapped once again, still hounding them as Marc-Antoine Blaise, Kyle Herbst, Lucas Webster, the top 10 still glued together.
So now Paul Darling has the advantage that Highcotter enjoyed for the first couple laps. Highcotter seems to be fading just a little bit here. Perhaps, as you were mentioning, the setup coming into the mix, has Highcotter driven the rear tires off of the car a bit too much, had too much slip angle in it perhaps. But he's still second, but he seems like he's losing a bit of touch with race leader Paul Darling.
Yeah, and we speculated that Darling had a really good setup for the long run. We're getting close to halfway through this race. As Alessandrini maybe got a nose, did he? No, just filling the mirrors on the back of Brian Highcotter.
Not enough there. Up the hill now. Highcotter still looks composed on the uphill and over the crest, which is good. Typically, if you really start to fight the car, it's noticeable there. Here's Christoph side by side with, I think that's Luke Tucciarone in the 74. Christoph turns in for 6.
It's a great 3-car battle for 11th. Christoph, Tucciarone, and Carwile
will continue to fight. We'll move back forward. Darling does not go defensive on the front straightaway. That's how you know you have a big lead, and I say big with air quotes, is when you don't have to go defensive in turn 1, because usually in a car like this, you're defensive every single lap.
You can see the confidence Darling has as he just knifes straight to the inside curb at Big Bend, and then he rolls at so much speed through the inside. While, yes, maybe there's a car width to his right that someone could charge up the inside, he's just carrying so much speed that no one's going to get there. So Darling looks absolutely the most confident coming down into turn 1 as things spread out down this Samposi straight. Highcotter, Alessandrini, Pilata, Cathers still the top 5, but I think, the most volatile, as you mentioned.
Whoa! Houseel wide into the wall at the top of the hill.
Is that spot. I was just going to say Houseel and Gooden, who had swapped back. Houseel pushing hard, runs wide into the wall.
You can actually see it knock the mirror off that car. Here's a look at it, or at least the resultant of it, as he heads through turn 6 here. Look at that left side mirror is knocked off. So that's not going to be very useful in telling him where other drivers are in the next couple of laps. Wyatt Gooden to the back of Cathers in turn 5.
For second place, DJ Alessandrini is through on Brian Highcotter. I was wondering how Darling got that little bit of a gap, and he sure made it through on Highcotter, and that's what allowed that. There was a little bit of mess behind. I'm trying to see who that was. Whoa. It was Marc-Antoine Blaise, who went straight from turn 1 to turn 3. Wow, how did he do that?
We're going to find out. Oh, he gets hooked on the curb and then gets sent off.
I think Kyle Herbst might have helped him across there, not to Kyle's fault or anything, but when he tank slapped like that, I think he might have got a little bit more exaggerated turn. Sure enough, Kyle Herbst has significant front end damage on the front of that 189. So when Marc-Antoine Blaise hooked the curb, Kyle Herbst had nowhere to go but into the back of him, turned him across, and now actually it looks like, unfortunately, Kyle Herbst maybe got the short end of that stick.
Yeah, it certainly did. So those two will have to kiss and make up probably as they head down the front straightaway. Kyle Herbst will tuck in behind. That damage is going to be significant, so he's going to be stuck with the aero deficiency on the nose of that car. Paul Darling still leads, but now it's DJ Alessandrini back to second, as you mentioned a lap ago here, Tom. But this is where I'd start to worry if I was Paul Darling, because I'm okay with having Highcotter behind me. Alessandrini, though, has a record of getting through and passing everybody.
Specifically in iRacing, he's so strong, as Highcotter is starting to show a little bit of signs of weakness as he runs a little bit wide, drags the grass, and is going to drop off the back of this battle. That's how Pilata in the background in the white and maroon, then Cathers rounding out the top 5. And I saw a little bit of lap traffic as we've just cleared halfway through this race. You're going to have to start navigating that, and that is, I mean, probably the most challenging part of Lime Rock.
Love watching the drivers pitch the car in, just turn it to the apex and drive it on the throttle. Again, we mentioned these cars have a new sequential transmission, which has simplified the shifting process. That used to be something you could sort of mess up. It's pretty difficult to do that now. So the opportunity to make mistakes is less so just in driving the car the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Like a paddle.
I was going to say, in the simulator, you did have to do heel-toe downshifting. You did have to drive the car as you would a real car. But because the real cars now have sequentials, the sim cars have sequentials. Makes it a little bit easier. Alessandrini's absolutely hounding Paul Darling right now.
And we're going to have about 7 laps to go next time by, so he is beginning to run out of time. And now it becomes a strategy race at this point. It's less about your initial position and more about where you plan to end up in 7 laps. So how are you going to get yourself there, Tom? Do you want to be leading on that final lap? I'd say you probably want to be second with a big run coming out of turn 7, but that's going to take a couple laps to set that up all on its own.
Yeah, turn 1 is absolutely the opportunity, but Paul Darling's been so strong there. It's kind of hard to say, but Darling makes a mistake. Alessandrini's going to power right around the outside. We talked about wherever you are, if you have your front axle ahead, it's easier to stay ahead in turn 1, and Alessandrini depicts that perfectly from the sky cam. You saw he was on the outside, but he had the axle ahead and now gets the preferred line into the left-hander.
Yeah, he's a little wide though, and that's going to let Paul pull even, but DJ's going to slide by, clear Paul Darling in turn 3. Darling's going to turn it a little earlier, try to carry some momentum, but DJ is through. And there is some lap traffic up the road, and I think that, let's see what car that is. Didn't quite get a great look at it.
I think it's Max Baumann in the 89.
Indeed it is. All on his own, though. That's good for the leaders because they'll probably only have to pass him, not a lot of others, presuming that everyone keeps it in a straight line. Meanwhile, how about this battle for 10th? That's Luke Tucciarone and Ryan Kristoff and Ryan Carwile all in mix.
And they just caught Kyle Herbst, who has that significant front end damage from the incident we saw 2 laps ago. So this is a 4-car battle for position, but one of them is 3-legged, I would say at this point, with Herbst there at the back. Ooh, Kristoff loosens up. Tucciarone just a little bit coming out of the front straight.
Big juke there from the 74 to go defensive. Now stays that way through turn 1. We'll jump back forward briefly as Alessandrini, he's wide in the grass just a little bit. That's going to help Paul out just a touch.
You can see just watching the drivers that are more comfortable with these cars, Alessandrini and Darling, they're comfortable going off track and keeping the car under control. They're using track limits way more to their advantage in this race than a driver like Highcutter or Pilata. So while their on-track pace might be the same, I think the extra pace we're seeing from Alessandrini and Darling is actually because they're going off the track just a little bit.
Darling, a little understeer there out of turn 7. He's going to jump in the grass. Ken Seal is crashed. So what happened to him? Lap traffic. Just caught it at the wrong time, right on the apex.
And Max Baumann was kind of awkwardly in the middle of the track. I don't know if he was slowing to move over, but Seal misjudged the approaching speed. Now here's a driver that wasn't afraid to pull punches before. Really tight stuff between Wyatt Gooden and Andrew Pilata for 4th place. Pilata in the 96 just in front as we ride along board with Gooden.
I think DJ was off course again at the exit of turn 3, and Paul Darling is hounding him once again as they head up to the uphill. 2 3-car fights in the top 6 at the moment as they crest the hill. And I think it's going to be between these front 3. And I think Brian Highcutter is not in a bad spot either, because if those front 2 get side by side, fairly easy to slot yourself right in the middle of all that.
Yeah, it certainly will be. 5 laps to go, 4 when we cross this time. That's only about 3.5 minutes left of racing, but you can just see the extra speed that those 2 front runners, Alessandrini and Darling, have on Brian Highcutter as we rode along with him through the last corner. Darling with a heck of a run around the outside.
Oh, he's got the axle ahead, but is it too much on entry? I think so. DJ powers back by and re-clears him to the middle of Big Bend. Trying to carry every bit of speed that he can. Opens up the entry to turn 3 to apex later and try to build that run for the back straightaway. DJ's a little crossed up, but he just does so well in the right-hander, still gives up a little bit of time.
So just leaving tire tracks everywhere, floating the perfect amount of speed. Darling glued to the back of him. These drivers are going to probably walk away with the top 2 points towards that SEMA championship in 3 weeks.
A little bit conservative there for Paul. Lets DJ pull away just a little bit, jumping back to 9th place again. This is Luke Tucciarone, Kristoff, and Carwile. We've been here a couple times before. It hasn't gotten any further apart between these 3. Well, that's a little wide for the 74. Gathers it up. Christoph going to take that run to the front straight.
Sonic the Hedgehog versus Bill Elliott versus Virginia Tech here for 9th place. Tucherone still has the point. Christoph is 4 off. Whoa, big float.
Pulls it back on course. And trouble for Pilata. He's turned around. Is that turn 1?
Ooh, it is, and that's a really weird spot. I have to wonder.
Oh!
Gooden, yep, Gooden was willing to rub fenders all night. That looks like he just kind of drove through him.
Yeah, here's a look again from up above. Did Pilata chase him over to the side of the track, though? Gooden going to go to the right. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that was...
Sir, what are you doing?
Oh, that was a little bit, as Calvin Fish would call it, argy-bargy.
Yeah, something like that.
Which he told me on Thursday of last week, or Friday of last week, that was not original. But I was disappointed in that, and I said, I don't care if it's not original. I'm crediting you with that term. And here comes Paul Darling now with 2 laps to go. Lap traffic just bailing off the track. That was fantastic.
The 62 goes, nope, y'all have fun. That's Matthew Morehart.
Through turn 1, the sun is setting not only in the virtual sky, but on the first round of the GRIDLIFE SimCity Challenge presented by Valvoline. Darling to the rear bumper here with a big run. He
got a great run off of Big Ben. There's just nowhere to go with it into the left-hander. Alessandrini looking very consistent. But I have to wonder, how much is Paul Darling kind of sizing up Alessandrini? Because we saw DJ was able to kind of pass Paul pretty easily when he wanted to. We have 2 laps to go. Paul might be able to respond to that.
Got to build up a run. Carries so much speed. You have to trust the car is just going to grip when you head through the uphill. The front 3 have broken away now from Wyatt Gooden, Cathers, and Lucas Webster, who are 4th through 6th rather. But next time by, the white flag will wave from the discount Adam Jabay on the front stretch. And DJ Alessandrini is in command. Perhaps unsurprisingly, but it's far from over. 7 corners left, and Paul Darling is close enough. DJ keeps it nice and tight. Darling drifts out a bit more. DJ's loose on the curb. Big slide. Through turn 3 now, trying to float and carry as much speed as possible. Heitkater's left front tire dancing on the curb. Darling all the way to the grass, almost gets in the tire bundles trying to carry some speed. Final time up the hill. Alessandrini in command. Paul Darling and Brian Heitkater in podium position. 2 corners left.
Problem for Paul is I don't think we've seen anybody make the pass by start finish coming down the downhill, but Alessandrini is 4 off, gets a big bump coming under the bridge. Does he lose enough speed from it? I don't know.
Here they come, checkered flag waving for the first time. The GRIDLIFE iRacers SimCity Challenge presented by Valvoline. Alessandrini, Darling, photo finish. Alessandrini grabs it by 42 thousandths of a second. Heitkater podiums as well in the number 05. That it's Wyatt Gooden, James Cathers, and more coming to the checkers. That was closer than I thought it was going to be, Tom, but Darling just misses it by 42 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, fantastic clean stuff amongst those top 3. Then we got to watch, unfortunately, Kyle Herbst with that collateral damage from when Marc-Antoine Blaise got himself loosened up there in turn 1. Drops all the way outside of the top 10.
Dropped 13th there in the final moments. Here's Tala Sadiq. Benson Tai coming to the checkers. And a great finish for the first of 4 championship rounds. Again, next week will be the GT4 cars, the BMW M4, the Porsche Cayman 718 GT4 Club Sport, as well as the McLaren 570S. But man, what a battle, what a finish. We'll go over a replay here in just a minute, but first of all, let's roll through our race results for the first round of the GRIDLIFE SimCity Challenge presented by Valvoline. Alessandrini, Paul Darling, 42 thousandths apart, and Brian Heitkater a 10th behind.
Then it's Wyatt Gooden, James Cathers, Lucas Webster rounding out the top 6. Then it was a big gap back to Marc-Antoine Blaise, a little bit of damage to that car before we got to that great battle between Luke Tucherone, Ryan Christoph, Ryan Carwile. They put on a heck of a show for us there at the bottom of the top 10.
Andrew Pilata drops to 11th, was running up in that front group, had contact and spun. Kobach, Kyle Herbst, Ken Roller, Evan Schickel, the rest of the top 15. Tala Sadiq ends up 19th. A couple other drivers we should mention. Yuki Takanashi was one of the drivers involved in that early collision, or one of the mid-race collisions, I should say. And from about 27th on down, these were the drivers that had crashes and could not finish. And then from 32nd on down, those were all the drivers involved in that lap 1 crash. Took out a bunch of drivers.
Yeah, none of them had as much fun watching it or doing it as we did watching it. That was very frustrating at the end of the day, but a little bit comedic coming up over the rise there. The good news is for our series points here in the SimCity Challenge, you get a drop week. So everybody in that kind of whatever 5th to 15th that ended up getting crashed there will get a redo next week with GT4 cars, and then finally with those 992 GT3 Cup cars. So today, you know, it's not all said and done.
Certainly not. Here's a look at our finish as they came out of turn number 7. Paul Darling with the run. And as they came to the line, he had a run here, Tom. And if the start-finish line was a little further down the straight or he'd gotten a bit more speed, he might have gotten there.
Yeah, and so many people can leave Lime Rock saying that. But at the end of the day, Alessandrini comes home with the win in Heat 1. Round 1, I should say, of the SimCity Challenge.
Yeah, we're also going to go back and take a look at that big lap 1 crash as well.
Oh, yeah.
While we've got the opportunity. And that was certainly something. You see big crashes all the time, Tom, but that was a big one for sure. Let's go back and see if we can find. Got to find the right lap here in the replay reel. So I think it starts. We're gonna just roll the entire first lap here, Tom. I think it starts kind of mid-pack. Trying to see where it all begins. We know some of the drivers that were involved, so let's head there. There's Kevin Zhu. We'll skip ahead here to the exit of turn 5. Just wonder. Oh, it was way ahead of them. The 33 is Schickel. He was even ahead of him.
Yeah, I think it started with the yellow car there, the 92.
Mark Labance.
Mark Labance might have gotten either turned or loosened up on the way into this corner here.
It turns in really, really early.
Yeah,
grabs the curb.
Way too much curb. Starts to go around on his own, and then everybody behind is a sitting duck.
Yeah, just spin. Oh, there was actually really 2 crashes there. The 92 turns back across the road here, or gets, yeah. That was just a big mess there, Tom. Not a lot anybody could have really done.
Nope.
One car was, I think Bauman was in the middle of all that, was he not?
Oof.
Man, it's a little hard to watch. All right, well, race complete and event complete. Our first round of the GridLife SimCity Challenge, presented by Valvoline from Lime Rock Park. Next week, we get to race at Mosport, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, with the GT4 class. And beyond that, Tom, we race at Austria's Red Bull Ring with the Porsche 992 Cup car. And then we race from Las Vegas at Road Atlanta in the sim with our 24 finalists, 8 from SEMA and 16 from the GridLife iRacers group. But Tom, event 1 complete, and we're almost done here, so we got to wrap things up. But your final thoughts on what was a very exciting and interesting first round?
I'm just glad to be back here with the GridLife iRacers and doing some sim racing a little earlier in the off-season than we thought. It's not even the off-season. We still get to race in real life this weekend. But again, moving towards next week's GT4 cars, take a bit of a shape with multi-make racing there. Then the spec racing of the 992 GT3 Cup car, but way harder to drive than this MX5. I think we'll see the cream of the crop rise to the top there with the next 2 weeks.
All right, here's your call to action watching from home. We race this weekend at Road America in real life, GridLife Touring Cup, and our Track Battle Time Attack Series. Go racing at the National Park of Speed. The links are already up here on the GridLife YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, make sure that you do that. Join us on Facebook, join us on Twitch, join us on YouTube. It'll be Greg Kramer and myself calling the last round of the season from Road America this Saturday and Sunday from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. That's it for us tonight, folks. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time here at GridLife.